all, and welcome to episode 511 of the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and each week, along with some of my favorite husky, hairy, huggable homos and friends, we review films either current or classic. Now with some nice lo-fi, chill hot vibes. We're coming at you this week with our review of the new M. Night Shyamalan thriller, Trap. We've got a lot to talk about, a lot of thoughts to solicit and share. But before we do, let me introduce you to my fantabulous co-hosts. Jim Pugliafico, as usual, and thankfully is with us here in the virtual studio. Hey, babe, how's it going?
It's going good. I'm here, ready to talk about this new movie, M. Night Shyamalan. Yeah, it's gonna be a blast. I can't wait to talk about it with you guys. Brad, I kind of know how you feel, but I want to hear about Will.
I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts too. I know we kind of save our loads a little bit with our movie thoughts on the car ride home. Now I can hear all your unbridled thoughts. Will Lindis, you are the mystery question mark most on our mind right now. How are you doing, friend?
Doing all right. You know, we've mentioned before in the past, we got a lot going on here at Movie Bears Podcast Central. So we're kind of getting through a few different things, but man, it's always a bright spot in my week when we can get here and talk about movies for a bit. And what I love about tonight is not only are we talking about a new movie, but we're maybe also talking about some plugs, some little gems that might also be worth chatting about too. So always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Love when we are able to get together and do this. And, the movie reviews are great, but plugs are really good too. So we're excited to bring those y'all's way a little bit later on in the episode. If you are listening live or watching on YouTube, feel free, or on Facebook, however you connect live with us, throw some thoughts in the chat or just say hi. Always happy to hear from you. But Jim, Will, how do you feel about getting into this new M. Night film discussion?
Let's get trapped.
I'm ready. Let's read the signs and go.
Oh, God. Okay.
Follow
I
the
had a sixth sense you were going to do that, Jim. Got it. Sixth sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Does
Takes
someone
a
want
village.
to make Some of these are so bad that it's like you only use them in case of emergency.
These puns are getting old.
Oh, that's a good twist. Will on that is the fun. Get it, twist, because M. Night does twists, or does he?
Yeah.
Question mark. We're gonna get into it. Listen,
we'll talk about that.
If you are not familiar with the format of our show, unlike other podcasts, which promise they won't spoil you and then spoil the bejesus out of you seconds later, when we say no spoilers, we motherfucking mean it. Getting our explicit tag right away. We're going to talk about Trap spoiler-free for about 10 minutes, and then we'll give you plenty of warning, I promise, before we open things up to spoilers. That way, if you need to step aside to protect your innocence of the plot, you will have an opportunity to do so. But all of that said, here we go. Our discussion of Trap. All right, Jim, feeling the chill vibe of our lo-fi beats. Match the energy. Kick this movie discussion off. What the hell is Trap? And is it worth catching in theaters, waiting for streaming, or skipping entirely? What are thy thoughts?
Well, so we have a new M. Night Shyamalan movie, and we've gotten quite a few of them over the last few years. He's putting out movies at a pretty good clip right now. In case you guys haven't noticed, this one, we've had Old, we've had Knock at the Cabin. I think it was Knock at the Cabin, not too long ago. his daughter, his other daughter. We're going to talk about his daughters tonight. His other daughter is making movies. It was called the Watchers, I think. And he was involved as a producer in that one. So, and then he's got this movie here, Trap, with we'll get into that, but this one stars one of his daughters as well. So he's a busy dad right now. So we'll talk about this one. I'll give you the quick plot synopsis. It doesn't really spoil anything. The trailer actually spoils way more than this synopsis does. But here we go. A father and his teen daughter attend a pop concert only to realize they've entered the center of a dark and sinister event. So we have this story of starring Josh Hartnett and Allison Pill. We have Salika Shyamalan in this movie, the aforementioned daughter of M. Night. I think making her movie on-screen debut here. I'm not sure, but I think so. And we'll talk about her as a pop singer as well. Ariel Donahue is in this one. Haley Mills shows up in this. Also a fun little performance by Jonathan Langdon. I had a pretty good time with this movie. So this is a kind of movie, right? I wish that M. Night, and we're going to talk spoilers later, so I won't spoil anything. I wish M. Night hadn't gotten saddled himself with like the king of the movie twist, right? When The Sixth Sense came out and its famous twist, and a few other movies that came out after that, The Village and Signs and so forth. Everybody's now looking for the twist, and to me it kind of puts a lot of pressure on his films. But this one I tried to take in as much as I tried to take it in without thinking, oh, where's the twist going to come? What's the twist going to be? It's always in the back of your mind, and it's hard to get rid of. I don't know if you guys had the same experience as I did, but I think it just kind of puts unfair expectations on a movie to kind of surprise you and wow you with a twist. This one is a pretty fun film, I think, for at least the first two acts. I was fully on board with this, and it's a preposterous movie. There's a lot of preposterous shit that happens in this movie. Right from the get-go, it's a preposterous premise. They're at this concert, and in the trailer, the SWAT team descends, and they're kind of trapped. go figure, in this venue, in this arena pop concert, and then things start to kind of spiral from there, and preposterous things happen, and characters do just off the wall kind of things that you'd probably never expect real people to do, and we'll get into some of those in spoilers. And I was fully on board with it. I think Josh Hartnett is really good in this. I think I was really surprised with how good he was. There's a lot of close-ups on him. He carries pretty much all of the film by himself, although, again, there's other actors here that fill out the plot and some of the other characters that I've mentioned. But it's really him, and I think he really does a good job. I was surprised by how good he did in this film. So, yeah, I was on board till the last act, where kind of more of the plot kind of kicked in, kind of where the resolution of the plot needs to happen. And as preposterous as the movie was in the first two acts, it really got really fucking crazy in the third act, to the point where you're like, come on, nobody would ever do that. What the fuck is going on here? And we'll talk about all that in spoilers. But I think it unfortunately, I think the movie kind of lost its way a little bit plot-wise in the third act, unfortunately, because I thought up to then it was a pretty cool thriller kind of a movie. So yeah, this is a good one for me. Do you have to run out to theaters to see it? I would say no. I would say though, when it does come on streaming, I would say it's definitely worth a watch. So that's kind of where I fall in it. I'm positive on it, but I don't know if it's worth running out to the movie theater to see right now.
All right, Jim, thank you so much for giving us your initial thoughts as we've got some Lady Raven backbeats happening.
Lady Raven. Yeah. I didn't mention Lady Raven, so it's all yours. Take it away.
Will, how about you first, actually? What did you think on this one? And would you recommend it or not?
Yeah, it's really interesting that Shyamalan's had this mini renaissance that began with oh my goodness, now I can't forget it. The not before Old, the one with the I mean, there were old people, but the grandparents.
Right.
That was kind of his first big. The Visit.
The Visit.
Yeah,
which is really good.
Yeah,
I like it.
So The Visit into Split. Glass I didn't care for as much. Old I didn't care for as much. Knock at the Cabin was fine. He's been working on Servant. So yeah, it's a lot of things have been happening there. And one of the things I like about what he's doing right now is he's really shifted his focus to this sort of Shyamalan family productions thing, right? You know, what we've got with that is he's got his one daughter who has served as second unit director on several of his films before, including Old. And she got a chance to direct her first film in The Watchers. And the same with, in this one, Salika, who plays Lady Raven. She did the soundtrack for Old and for The Servant. So between those two, you know, she's been kind of primed to do this stuff. I want to start by saying I really liked her in this. She plays the music that she puts out is, I mean, she's an actual singer-songwriter. That's her thing.
She is.
You know, that's her real life gig, but like with the focus on also like soundtrack scores. And I think she was a believable pop star. I think as far as the role that she had to play, I think she was pretty believable in this. So I liked seeing her in that. Josh Hartnett is very charismatic and in a way that you kind of want from the type of character that he's playing here, right? You know, like that really put on version of charisma. I ultimately, Jim, I think you and I had a very similar experience on this one. I really like the premise itself, and some of the turns that this one takes are a little silly, but they're all kind of in the vein of fun. And, you know, as long as you go along for the ride, those are fun. The first 2/3 of this are pretty tense. You're kind of looking at what this film is like, you know, all the different little mouse traps that are being put in the main character's way and trying to figure out how he's going to get out of them. And sometimes it's silly how he gets out of them, but it's still fun. It's a very enjoyable watch. It does lose steam in the third act. For me, it's less because it's like preposterous and more because it sort of suffers from like multiple ending syndrome. I kept feeling like we were about to kind of wrap up the story, and then there would be kind of another extension to it that would kind of add a few more. So I kind of feel like that third act needed to be tightened up a little bit, with maybe make some of the drama more drawn out and let the kind of the resolution play out a little bit more cleanly. But ultimately, this was a decent watch. You know, not a theater watch. I don't think you need to rush out and see this one. But if it shows up on Netflix in a couple of months and you're looking for something worth watching, I mean, I've seen worse. I've seen a lot worse. You know, like I would actually recommend
the poster.
Yeah. No, I'm being overly negative there. I give this one a very soft, but still a recommend. You know, I think that it's good outshines its bad. And I'll at least, when I look back on this movie, I'll look back on it positively, and I'll look back on it with like, you know, if someone were to say, okay, here's a big hot take. The last 2 episodes that we've done, if I were to have to sit down and kind of watch one of these movies again, I'd probably watch this before I rewatched Deadpool Wolverine. So, yeah. Yeah, so that's where I am.
Interesting. All right. Well, Will, thanks for sharing your thoughts as well. I'll keep mine pretty brief so we can bank some time for spoilers. Plus, you guys have covered a lot of the territory. I just have a few call outs. One, I imagine the genesis of this movie to be one weekend, M. Night is sitting on the couch with Salika and his family, and they just finished binge watching like 3 episodes of Dexter because they're going through it together. And then Salika's like, let's watch the Eras Tour on Disney Plus. So they watch that too. And afterwards, M. Night is like, what if I blended Dexter and the Eras Tour together? And that's how we got this movie.
Fair. That's fair. I think that's close. But I bet he probably went to an Eras Tour concert.
He probably may have.
Yeah,
after,
they probably went to
probably
got the full experience. Yeah,
maybe. But yeah, this movie is an interesting like blend of things. Salika's music, I mean, it's fine. She really hasn't gotten like a tremendous like big break though, music wise, and so. To me, the other call out here is this movie is basically like a giant fucking commercial for her music. And I liked her more as an actor in this film. I liked a lot of the tension and stuff surrounding like what happens with her character as she's folded into this whole plot. But I think at one point we got a whole like 6-minute and 19-second performance of one song on her on stage, and I kept looking at my watch because I'm like, wow, this is going on forever. 2 minutes, and then 4 minutes, and then 6 minutes, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then it was like 6 minutes and 20 seconds, you know, when it was over. And so it's like, you know, I feel like this movie kind of drags in a lot of ways, and I think part of that is in the beginning, like we could have cut multiple minutes of these performances out, still got the point that we're at a pop star concert, whatever, right? But it would have seemed a lot less like promoty. Also too, like you mentioned some of the crazy zaniness with this, and I found it a little hard to believe in what was going on, because it's like, M. Night, have you ever been to an actual concert? Like, who leaves their seats for 20 minutes at a time? You know, thousands of people walking around during a song. Like, you know, the big concerts I've been to, like you go to the fucking bathroom and like, you know, it's scarce. Like people are in their seats listening to the music. And so I'm just like, yeah, this makes no fucking sense at all. But like, okay, apparently we need it. We're going to go there. But you kind of forgive some of the conceit a little bit, right? You let it take a back seat because you want to get a good story. And I agree. Mousetraps was such a good word for some of the different traps that are like set to try and catch Dexter. I mean, whatever his name was in the movie. Connor. I will say, even though this movie, spoiler alert, it's not a recommend for me. I did have one shining, wonderful, incredible light in this film. No, it wasn't Allison Pill. It was not. Sorry, Allison Pill. It was Haley Mills. I fucking loved Good Morning Miss Bliss, which turned into Saved by the Bell, the junior years, which then became Saved by the Bell. I have enjoyed Haley Mills every decade of my life. I did not know she was going to be in this. When I saw her name pop up in the credits, I turned to Jim and I was like, holy shit, Miss Bliss? And Jim's like, who the fuck is Miss Bliss? And we talked about that later. But
yeah.
But I enjoyed her performance in this a lot, even though it was really, really hammed up. I mean, she was chewing some scenery as she reported about the killer's movements, but she was a delight. So that was really nice. So all in all, for me, at least with this film, yeah, if it's on streaming and you literally have nothing else to do, like your dog doesn't even need to be walked right now, sure, okay, randomly put this on. But I wouldn't recommend going out of your way to track it down. But that's me.
You know, there's another interesting... there's another interesting Haley Mills connection, too. She was the lead in The Parent Trap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when she was what? How old? Like 11?
Much younger, yeah. Yeah, but Trap,
no, like
I just like the whole, like, you know, like, oh, she went from the...
Can we blend those movies together? Parent Trap?
It's like a serial killer and his estranged ex-wife are parent trapped by their daughters
Twin
to
daughters.
go to a rock concert, a pop concert,
Yeah.
and they have to both reconcile and escape.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, babe, about I'm surprised though that you didn't vibe more with the music stuff, because I know lately you've been really, I mean, we watched the Eras tour recently on Disney Plus, and it was cool. I enjoyed watching it just for the stage production alone, although I'm not really much into, you know, that style of pop music that much. I know that you've fallen head over heels for Taylor Swift, and I'm surprised you didn't vibe with this music a little more, because I'm not an expert in pop music, but I sense that like Salika's music and Taylor Swift's music are kind of side by side. They're kind of similar, you know, in terms of their like poppiness and you know, the vibe, I guess, you know, the whole stage production with dancers and, you know, choreography and costume changes and stuff. I just, you're right. It's like, it was the Eras concert. They even had like the wristbands and stuff on that are very popular now at these pop concerts. I'm like, at one point, I'm like, maybe they went to an Eras. They got permission to film like the audience at like an Eras concert, and then just like edit in the scenes of Salika. They probably didn't do.
Here's how I know that's not the case. She's this mega fucking pop star, right? She's like Taylor Swift levels of pop star. Playing an arena with 20,000 people where like floor seats are really close to like the gym bleacher seats that are like right nearby.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case. But to your point, I did not go out and buy the official companion album for Salika's music. I don't know. A lot of it trying to take M. Night and the promotiness out of it, right? And just think about it in terms of like enjoying the musical performances. I think that Salika does a lot of things with modern music that I don't like. That my newly discovered love of Taylor Swift, at least the T Swift songs I like, don't share qualities with. She does certain like breathy things with her voice, or like, you know, all these like big runs on these notes that like absolutely don't need them. And I don't know. They're just it's like modern music triggers for me that I keep stumbling across. That I don't know.
Taylor's maybe is more stripped down and down.
Yeah, it's you know, it's just it's different to me. I'd have to listen to them again side by side, I guess, but it seemed different to me. And
yeah,
I will admit, you know, the promoting thing probably biased me a little bit, but I think there's a lot of meat here to talk about though in this film. How do you fellas feel about making that jump into spoiler territory?
There's a lot.
Let's do it.
Cool. All right. Listen up, folks. If you continue to listen, watch, whatever it is you do with our podcast, you do so at your own peril. If you do not want to be spoiled on the plot of Trapped, this is your chance to step away for the next 20 minutes or so. Then come on back for our plugs at the end. You're not going to want to miss those. If you're listening through the magic of digital tape delay through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc., thanks for listening. We appreciate you. Feel free to give us a review, but also skip ahead using the time index in the show notes, blah, 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 blah. Protect yourself. Spoilers are fair game. Where do you guys want to start?
I want to start with your comment about like, have they ever actually been to a concert before? Because throughout this movie, you have a dad who, granted, he's a serial killer psychopath trying to escape from, you know, the SWAT team that's descended upon the arena. But he leaves his like 12-year-old daughter like in the crowd, like several times all alone, you know, kind of on her own accord. Like, I don't know too many parents today who would kind of go by that behavior. It seemed like that kind of took me out a little bit. Like, wait, he's leaving his daughter there? That's kind of weird. Am I overprotective? Am I like, I don't know.
I give that a pass because like you're at a stadium filled with other basically fans of this thing. And he did it like one time, just sort of like early on. And then the times that he does it after that are all kind of like, oh shit, I'm trying to get out of this thing. So at this
Yeah.
point, it's not really about just, you know, what it is to be a parent. It's how do I survive this trap I'm in?
Mm-hmm.
At one point, I think even the daughter takes a break, right? And she's like walking in the concourse with him during the concert. And it's like, oh yeah, they're just setting up for the next song. I'm like, they don't actually do that in these concerts. Like
Yeah.
they pretty much play. They're not like, hey, let's stop the concert and you know, we'll be right back. Go have popcorn. Um, Generally, they, at least in my experience, they don't really work that way. But it, you know, for the movie, I guess they stretched it a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just liked the sinisterness of which, you know, that was beneath the surface of the Connor character. You know, he seemed like a nice dad, and by all accounts, he was a nice dad when he wasn't murdering people. Like, but the sinisterness was there under the surface, and I really liked that performance. That you know, that Hartness was able to pull that off. It really came through, and there were a lot of you know, this is a pretty cool film to look at. There's a lot of cool camera stuff going on, and there's a lot of close-ups on Hartnett's face, so you can see his reactions when certain things are happening, that kind of ramp up the tension, and I really like that about it as well.
The part where I lost it a little bit was there towards the end when I said it in the front part, the multiple ending syndrome. So there's a part where the concert ends and Josh Hartnett and his daughter have found a way to get out, and it's by sort of like playing his hand very aggressively to Lady Raven and getting out with her through her kind of backstage credentials.
Yeah.
And then she sort of pulls well, let's just go see your house too, just because she knows that he's got a hostage there. And I'm still on board at this point. You know, it's like, it's weird, but it's sort of setting up a big climax. But once we get there, we go through a climax and a scene with them in the house. And then finally everything's done. But oh no, now he's followed her and kidnapped her again in the limo, and now she's gotten free again. And now, oh no, he's made it back to the house and has a scene with the wife. You can cut, I think, you cut those last two things and just make kind of the stuff in the house like have a little bit more breathing room. I think it's a much tenser, much more solid movie, honestly.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the setup.
Go ahead, babe.
No, because I'm gonna take it to a pointed place. So go ahead.
Oh, you are. Yeah. Yeah. I guess by the time it got to the scene with the wife, and were you going to talk about that, babe? That whole scene, like with Allison Hill.
I was just gonna say. I'll just go ahead and go. I could see this movie unrolling very differently. Like he's pressuring Lady Raven, and they get in the car, and Lady Raven's, you know, at that moment where she says, let's go see your house. And instead she says, okay, bye. And they get out of the car because they're letting her go. And she calls Haley Mills, and the cops are waiting at his house as they show up, and the credits roll.
Yeah.
That's what would have happened in real life. Not,
right.
Oh, can I go see your house?
Yeah. I did like the turn where Lady Raven kind of took control, right, over the situation, where like he thought he was in control of everything. You know, I'm gonna use you for your limo ride to my house. And you could tell that he was thinking ahead, but not as far ahead as she was, which was, I thought, was really cool. They gave this character who we really didn't even know up to that point, because she was performing in the concert, right? She couldn't really be a real character in the story until the end. And we're like, oh, this is cool. She's got control of this serial killer. And this is going to be fun if she like is able to torment the serial killer, you know, in way. And she did a little bit. I wish there was a little bit more.
Part of the issue for me is that I didn't know very much about her as a character. There wasn't a lot for me to kind of like relate to and hook onto. I almost wish that we had gotten like development in parallel in the beginning of the film, like this whole thing with like her having asthma and like, you know, having a little stage fright and being afraid of not being good enough. Like let's have some green room conversations or something, like we swap back and forth just to get a sense of her character, so that when, the two things do collide and she gets drawn into this, it just kind of pulls you in a little more, I guess. Like, I was like, okay, is he gonna kill her? Okay, that sucks. Sorry, Lady Riven. Oh, is he not gonna kill her? Okay, that's cool, I guess. Like, all right. I just didn't feel deeply enough about her, I guess. Like, when she was in danger, it just, I don't know, it didn't resonate with me as much. So maybe that's just the conceit of the film versus my expectation, but it could have been more effective.
Yeah, and it's funny. We talked about like the expectation of a twist. At that scene where she's kind of locked herself in the bathroom and she's trying to use the phone to alert, to kind of what's the word, crowdsource her rescue
Yeah.
from her phone in the bathroom, which was kind of cool. Brad's like, oh, get this, her family's in on it. They're all just acting outside the door, and when she opens the door, they're all gonna be like his accomplices in this thing. And I said that would have been a kind of a cool twist. That would have been an M Night Shyamalan twist right there. But again, the movie doesn't go that direction. I did not like the pie eating scene at all.
No.
It was so telegraphed. Like, come on, we know she's feeding him drugs or something,
Right.
And in the end, they didn't even really seem to do anything. That's the worst part.
And we didn't need it because, like, we hadn't seen much of the wife at that point. Really, the showdown should have been Lady Raven versus Butcher, which
Connor.
is where it was up to that point. Yeah, and I do like, though, that the Lady Raven character, like, I think part of her motivations was, and granted, it's a little bit of like a Chekhov's gun type thing, but the main reason she's sort of like looped in on sort of this particular course of action is because, he says, if you do anything, I'll murder this guy. Right. So she's trying to like do what she can to save the situation, but also save the dude. And I like that she had to, that was the trap that she found herself in there at the end. Like, how do I accomplish both of these tasks at the same time? But yeah, I mean, we get we really didn't need the family stuff there at the end. It should have just been, a more tense showdown between the two of them for a little bit more time, and let that be the runtime, not the pie eating and all, and the limo scene with the fans showing up outside,
Yeah, they seem to shoehorn the Allison Pill character, the wife character, into the whole plot at the end. It felt like the movie, for some reason, thought it needed to bend over backwards to tell us why the SWAT team was at the arena in the first place. And they went through that whole thing about the ripped up ticket and receipt. Like, I didn't really care. I didn't care why the SWAT team was there. Like, I don't think it really mattered in the end. At that point, I'm not looking for a procedural. I'm looking for like a thriller, and I'm looking for the conclusion of a thriller movie. I think the movie, that last act that's how I found it a little muddled, and unfortunately it didn't match up to the first two acts for me. And why did the cops let him like go over to the bicycle at the end? Like, oh, just give me one moment. Like, this is after they tased him 3 times. He was going crazy in the house, and it's just kind of it was really
to be fair, and I do think it was silly, and I don't defend it within the movie, but to be fair, in real life we have seen situations where certain types of mass shooters / serial killers are allowed to like go get Burger King on the way to the jail, while others
a certain demographic you're talking about?
A certain demographic that the Josh Hartnett character falls under. That's not the case that the film was making here, but like, and maybe there is a way for them to have made a statement about that in some way, shape, or form. But it was
didn't have to. Yeah,
I mean,
silly plot stuff.
Miss Bliss is basically like, look, everybody, this guy's a Hannibal Lecter super killer.
Because I know
dangerous. We have thousands of police officers stationed at this concert. Look, we have 4 officers. showing up to this thing where we know he's at, and oh, by the way, yeah, like don't like hold his hands restrained behind his back. Let's put him in really loose chains and let's let him kneel down by a bike, which has metal parts he could break off. Let's let him have physical access to his daughter. We don't know if he's going to kill her, hug her, what, but sure, it's fine because Haley Mills apparently disappeared and wasn't giving the police any advice as they're walking him out to the car. Oh, and also let's put him in the back of the paddy wagon with no officers there with him to guard him, which is what they, would do in real life. I think when the movie only works because people are as stupid as possible and all of the luck that is Lucky is on the killer's side, then the movie doesn't work.
Lose its credibility.
At least for me. I shouldn't say that so broadly, but there's just no credibility there, and it's so unbelievable that it jumps off the rails for me. And so, this had an interesting setup. Really great to see Haley Mills. I actually really enjoyed Josh Hartnett's acting here too, by the way. I think he did a fun job. He was mainlining Dexter a little too hard with some of his performance, but maybe that was his method research. I don't know. But man, this could have been so much better. And it didn't even have to have a big twist. Like if they opened the door and like Allison Pill and Riley both had knives and they're like, "Hey, Lady Raven," like that would have been amazing. But not every movie has to have a twist. But I do think everyone expects it now. And I don't know if he's trying to get away from that or what, but it's like he's got to make some choices, and they're not always the right ones, I guess. For some people like me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that all that silliness and like plot contortion kind of robs the movie of its tension, right? Especially near the end there, and that's too bad. I don't know that we'll ever get a trap. They went through all that, and I don't know why. I don't know if we'll ever get a trap 2. I mean, a lot of his films, and this is what I give him credit for, they are original, right? They're mostly original. I mean, yes, they draw from other things, but they're not like their original IP. They're not like pulled from a comic book or pulled from a book series or some crap, or an old 60s TV show. They are original stories, and he writes them, and I give him credit for that. Doesn't always hit 100% on all cylinders, unfortunately, but like I said, I still had enough fun with this movie. Why did I laugh at him pushing some innocent person down the stairs? Why did I laugh at that moment? Like,
why did you?
I don't know. It felt like, okay, this movie is going kind of crazy. It almost like tipped the scale into slapstick a little bit. Like when he like oh shit, I'm trapped. I don't know what to do. Boom! I'm gonna knock this woman down the stairs and create a diversion. And then we had the exploding oil, and it was kind of crazy.
Yeah, indeed. Well, any final thoughts on Trap before we move on forward?
No.
But I will say this. I know we talked about Seleka. I actually did not know that was his daughter until we got out of the film. I did not know that was his daughter. I didn't do any research at all until after the film. I've seen the trailer, but I didn't put 2 and 2 together that was his daughter. Should I have? Was there something that like indicated that was his daughter? Because I think you would have to kind of know the behind the scenes story for that.
Only like if you see the name in the credits or something like that.
Right. And I don't know if I did. They don't do credits before the movie. I don't know if I don't think they do that anymore. But yeah, I didn't actually know until after. And Brad's like, "Oh yeah," and I'm like, "That's his daughter? Oh yeah, I guess it is." So that was kind of crazy. And I think that's why maybe, babe, I didn't have the kind of pushing her as a star thing take away from the movie for me, like you did, because I think you knew going in.
Well, I didn't know going in. I knew as I was sitting there and saw her name pop up, that it was his daughter. I mean, I knew there was a pop star from the trailers, but I didn't know that was Solika. Like, I had no idea what Solika
I didn't
looked
even.
like, or
First of
that
all,
she was going to be in the movie.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
didn't know he had a daughter named Solika. So when they said Solika, I thought it was just a name of another pop star.
Yeah. So I'm over here chuckling because I just asked ChatGPT to write a movie mashing up Dexter and the Eras Tour, and it basically fucking wrote Trap, except it calls it Killer Melodies, but it's basically the same fucking movie.
I like the name.
Killer Melodies. Wow.
Anyway, all right. Well, I think that brings our Trap discussion to a close. Jim, Will, as always, it's a lot of fun talking that movie through.
Oh yeah.
I didn't have the most, fun with the movie, but I had a lot more fun talking about it with both of you.
Course.
So that was a lot of good times, chill vibes. We killed the chill music because it didn't really match up with our discussion, but it was fun for a little bit. New toys to play with. Anyway. All right. Well, I think we would go ahead and end the show here, but plugs have to happen, right? So we're going to kick this over to Will. Will, go ahead and open up your butt plug reservoir. What have you got for us this week that you want people to know?
That's an image.
So I just got a chance to catch up because it's on you can rent it for full price streaming, but I wasn't able to catch it in theaters. Maxine, which is the third film in the Ty West trilogy that ran X to Pearl to Maxine. Each one of them set sort of in a different decade and sort of combining horror and the links that people will go for, like stardom and celebrity. This one's set in 1980s Hollywood, and we've got Maxine Minks, who survived the first film X. She's now an adult film star and gets her big break in a horror film. But right around the time that things are starting to look right for her, a killer emerges from the shadows and starts leaving a trail of bodies that seeks to sort of uncover some of the secrets in her past. This is a lot of fun. It's probably my least favorite of the three Ty West movies. I really loved Pearl. Pearl was fantastic. X was a lot of fun, and I think Maxine has an amazing first two acts, and then it slows down a little bit at the end, which is very similar. Which is fun for this episode. It's also fun for this episode because both this movie and Trap, I feel like are B movies that sort of play around with A ideas, which is a line from Maxine, but I borrowed it because I think it makes sense in sort of explaining kind of what both filmmakers want. I think Maxine does it a little better. Mia Goth is a star. She is so good in these movies. She is just, you can't help but watch her and see her just as this dynamic force guiding her way through these films. The atmosphere, this is 80s, 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 but like not in a let's just throw some random needle drops at it. This feels like the 80s, not necessarily like the neon and bright 80s that we see, but also some of just like there's a little bit of Hollywood sleaze 80s and a little bit of just sort of like just in the way that things are shot, it kind of feels like, not want to say VHS, but it just has sort of a texture that feels a little throwback and retro. This is pretty good. It's pretty good. I'd recommend it. It's Maxine. You can rent it right now on like Amazon or Apple or any of those different streaming sites. It'll probably be down in price here in a couple of weeks, but yeah, this is the goods. Strongly recommended.
Awesome. Will, I have a question. Are those three films, Ty West films that you mentioned, do they have a connection, an in-story connection?
Yes.
And is it a spoiler to mention that connection? Because if it is, don't mention it.
It's not. The first one, just super briefly, is a sort of a think like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre-esque type film at a Texas place in Texas where they're shooting an adult film, and there's this old couple that runs the house. Pearl is the backstory of the woman who runs the house, and then Maxine, who is one of the adult film stars in the 70s, in X, is also the main character here. So it's almost like a story,
like
then a flashback movie, and then a continuing the story on movie.
Okay, cool.
But they also, you don't need to have watched each of them. They're not like so interconnected that you lose anything from them. Right. But I do think they're richer for having watched them all.
Cool. Thanks. Maybe I hope to get around to watching them sometime.
Thank you, Will. All right, Jim. Yeah, you'll definitely have to get on that.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, speaking of things to get on, what is your butt plug for this week?
My plug is a documentary film. Go figure. I do plug a lot of documentaries on the show because I love them. And this one I really loved as well. This one's called Let the Canary Sing. For folks that grew up listening or in the 80s or listening to 80s music, you know who Cyndi Lauper is. This chronicles Cyndi Lauper's ascent to stardom and her impact on generations through her music, starting obviously in the 80s. Look, she's been a tremendous ally in the LGBT community. Also a staunch believer and promoter of women's rights and trans lives. She's touched a lot of people that are connected with our community. And I'll admit, in the 80s, I wasn't that into a lot of her music. I was aware of it, but maybe I dismissed it a little bit too easily. But this documentary is really good. You can watch it. It's right now available on Paramount Plus. So if you have Paramount, check this out. It's called Let the Canary Sing. A great insight into her, what drives her. Made me cry a couple times, which, for documentary is really cool. What I like about these documentaries is it doesn't just cover, she had this hit in, 1988 and blah, blah, blah. This is about like her as a person behind the music, not to use an overused term, but like, behind all the making of the music and how it came to be and what her belief system is and how it's reflected in her music. And she's still going today. So, yeah, Cyndi Lauper, Let the Canary Sing. It's worth your time. Paramount Plus.
All right. Awesome. I caught bits and pieces of that with you. And I think the favorite bit that I saw was just a clip. I don't think this is a spoiler. It's just a clip from the Girls Just Want to Have Fun music video. I had not seen that music video. Yeah, I hadn't seen that music video since probably 92 or something, when I used to watch MTV. And it just filled me with so much joy. So I didn't see the whole doc, but glad you got a chance to catch up with it. That was
watch that
and
one.
The movie and the story behind that song is incredible too. Will, I won't spoil it, but there's a story behind how that song came to be, her kind of anthem at that time. And it comes out of an unexpected place. So I really dug that about.
I definitely need to watch it. Yeah. True Colors is the first song I ever remember hearing in my life. I remember listening to it on record. First song I can recall actively hearing in my life. So I'll always have a special place in my heart for that because it started music for me.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, for me this week, do you ever find yourself in that place where you have 1,000 things that you want to watch, but you can't make a decision what to watch? It's like, Oh, maybe I
every
want
night.
Oh, maybe I want that. Oh, maybe this could be good. Oh, I should look at my movie list and pick something. Right, Jim. We find ourselves in that place often. And sometimes I want to be on my phone, but also have something playing on the background that I'm interested in enough to kind of pay attention to and osmosis absorb, but like also gives me the freedom of my mind to multitask. Lately, I have found 10-hour blocks of cartoons with commercials from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. So, my favorite thing to do lately is I will throw a 10-hour block of cartoons from the 80s on. And then I can read on my phone. I can play games on my phone. I'm watching old cartoons. I don't know what episode of He-Man it's going to play. I don't know what episode of Transformers it's going to be.
Care Bears.
Or Care Bears, or Gem, or GI Joe, but I do know that it's going to be some random string of episodes. And what I love about it, even though they're really shitty quality, they have all the bumpers from when they would like go to commercial and like come back from commercial. So like Orca from He-Man will come out and be like, He-Man will be back after these messages. And when I watch them on DVD or streaming, like I don't ever see those bumpers.
Nope.
And so I forgot about those. And I'm watching an episode of G.I. Joe, and I forget the name of the sailor G.I. Joe, but he comes out like chomping on a cigar, and he's like, G.I. Joe will be back right after these messages. And then he like winks in his like leather daddy wink. And I'm like, funny things are happening to me right now. I don't know what's happening to my body.
Even though the producers tried to make him the butchest right? GI Joe character, it had the opposite effect on some of the kids that were watching.
Yeah, I'm gonna shipwreck that ass.
And the commercials, which I hate watching commercials now, but like watching commercials from the 70s and 80s and 90s, such a fucking like hit from the nostalgia bong, I guess, right? Like so many member berries in their actual cartoon, commercial, whatever forms. So anyway, I just would throw that out there. I'm new to the YouTube thing. Jim has really gotten me into finding cool stuff there. And those just randomly popped up for me. And I'm like, 10 hours, let me look at that. And now it's like one of my favorite things to throw on. So enjoy.
That and
That's
your psychedelic Star Trek stuff.
Yeah.
There's a something I've noticed on Amazon Prime lately. They have these like channels that you can just sort of like tune into, and you're not watching stuff on demand. It's just playing a block of programming. And there is one that is retro cartoons.
What?
And so I've done a little bit of that too recently. Not these 10-hour blocks, maybe kind of, I'll just like pop in and there'll just be like, halfway through an episode of Brave Star, and you'll be like, oh, cool, let's watch this.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would love, Apple, Google, whoever, if you're out there listening, I would love the ability to make a playlist of shows that it just shuffles like one episode from one show and then one random episode from another show.
Yeah.
As like a programming.
Whatever the next program is like.
Right. And like, yeah, maybe today it's like Brave Star, Transformers, and Dennis the Menace. And then tomorrow it plays, He-Man, Care Bears, and Power Rangers or something. And you never know what order it's going to be or what episode it's going to be. That would be my dream.
I kind of do that with music right now. I have this giant playlist of 4,000 songs, and I always set it to shuffle. Like I listen to all my stuff on shuffle. Very rarely do I hone in on any one artist or anything like that. I don't see why maybe you couldn't do that on like a YouTube, set up a YouTube channel with a bunch of shows and just have it shuffle. You can save YouTube files into your profile and to a playlist and then shuffle it. So
yeah, I just want it to be like the library of stuff that I bought. Like I want to be able to select, like make a show, a show playlist, right, of shows I've bought, that it can like play in any order. And
you want to be able to, customize your playlist, but also still randomize
curate it.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, we're coming at you next week, relative, of course, to when we're recording, with a review of Borderlands. Or is it Borderlands? How do the gamers pronounce it? What is official? I don't know. I think it's Borderlands. But Jim, because of where you're from, I'm used to those A's being
I don't even know
like
what this is. Nothing.
softer.
Zero.
It's a video game adaptation with Kate Blanchett. Anyway, so that's next week. And then just to give you all a heads up, we're probably going to be taking a little bit of an end of summer hiatus. We'll mention there's a ton of stuff going on right now. We got travel stuff. We got work stuff. We got house project stuff. This is all the things are converging. So we're going to take maybe 2 or 3 couple weeks away. We'll be back for the fall. We're looking forward to getting spun back up into some fun things. But we are going to be back at you next week for Borderlands. So if you're looking forward to that film, go see that this weekend and then join us next week for our live stream or hit up the recording. But if folks want to chat with us between now and then, let's let them know how they can reach out and touch someone. Jim, how can folks reach out and touch you online in a safe, consensual, non-stalkery way?
You know what? Find me on Letterboxd. That's the app that all us movie watchers love to go on there and you can just log your movies and rate your movies, and that's what I do on there. And then you can also reach out to friends and see what they do with their ratings of movies and their logs of movies and trade messages. So yeah, Letterboxd. I'm on there. I'm at JJP Out West. My initials JJP. The 2 words Out West all together. You can also find me on Facebook under my name, Jim Pugliafico. No one's copied it yet, I don't think.
All right. Thanks, sweetheart. Will, how about you? How can folks get up in your business in a safe, consensual way that you welcome?
I'm really just going to focus on 2 right now. I mostly use Facebook for general social stuff. So, reach out, let me know who you are, that you're not a bot on Facebook. Just look for William Lindis. And then Letterboxd, review everything, rank everything there. Just look for the Movie Bear. Give me a follow. I'll follow you back.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Folks, for me, you can also find me on Letterboxd at iBradPro. You can also find me on Facebook. Just look for Brad Harris. I'm the one with Chub, Chaser, Bear, Dolphin, Wolf, whatever, etc. Silly label, friends in common with you. The labels are silly, not my friends, just to clarify. But yes, please send a message as well. Let me know you're coming from the show and that you are not a bot. That would be great. I may ask you some simple math questions that you have to answer with a drawing made from macaroni to prove that you're a real person. But it's worth it. The juice is worth the squeeze. I'll just say that. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Always great when we can get together and do this. We will see you all next week for Borderlands. Have a good one. Bye, everybody.